an in-person workshop, but kind of missed getting to hang out with everybody. So for tonight's Q&A, we are going to talk how to cut your grocery budget even more. So I know there's a lot of folks that are just trying to get started, just trying to get everything figured out, and you're brand new on the couponing game. And in a sense, this is going to be kind of a crash course for you. So we're not going to cover all the gist of how the ins and outs on couponing. But what I want to cover is actually a lot of different ways that you can make an impact on your grocery budget that's not 100%. You need to get the Sunday paper and you need to cut all the coupons. There's a lot of things that we can do that can help bring down the overall amount that you're spending on groceries. And couponing is definitely one of them, but it's a piece of a puzzle that can have a lot of pieces. So that's where I want to go tonight and everything that I want to cover. And hopefully I can get everything to work great. The plugin that I use for comments just told me that it did not want to work. So hopefully I can get this to where I can see everybody's comments. We'll see. So I'm trying to refresh it. But if you have a question tonight, whether it is on topic or off topic, I am totally cool with whatever your questions are. If you will stick them in the comments, I will see them, or my husband will see them, in between the two of us. Hopefully, I will get you an answer. That's the goal. So feel free to go anywhere you want in the comments. I'm fine if we're on or off topic. Let's see. And Rhonda's saying she went to Kroger and saved 71% and 48% at CVS, and she just found us a couple weeks ago. So that's awesome, Rhonda, for just a couple weeks. But huge savings at Kroger, and CVS is just my happy place. So I know you had a kind of a fun time all the way around. So let's dive in. I do want to hit just basics on groceries. And when I say basics, we've done whole videos on this. So the gist is, if you are using the lists that are on Southern Savers, and what I mean by that is you are coming to Southern Savers, and at the top of the site, you're picking the store that you want to shop at. It's going to pull up a list of all the deals that are currently at that store. The list that you see on Southern Savers is not the entire weekly ad. So when we focus on what's on sale at the grocery store, the items that show up in that store's ad are not necessarily a good deal. So what we want to focus on are items that are 40% off or more. So if you're using the list that's on Southern Savers, that's my goal. I only type the items that are 40% off or more. If it's not hit that point, it's really not the week to grab it. So grocery sales run on a cycle, and our goal is to only buy it when it is the best price. I want to see that it's the best price this week, and then I want to get enough of it to last me until it is back on sale. And this is the other half of that equation. It is 6 weeks, guys. You could literally set an alarm on your phone, and in 6 weeks, whatever that item is, it is going to be back on sale. You just trust me if you're new, but it has been this way for eons, and I wish that we taught this like to high schoolers. Though I will confess, I tried to teach it to high schoolers this weekend, and I don't think they cared very much. But we did talk a lot about mobile apps, and that part they got. So the gist for us, I buy it when it's a really good price, 40% off or more, and I buy enough to last me 6 weeks. That's all you need. So I am not telling you to stop parking in the garage. I am just telling you to get enough for 6 weeks. Now, that's the basics of groceries that I wanted to hit on. And the other side of things that I want to hit on, again, entire videos, and we're actually going to do drugstores next week. That's all we're going to talk next week. But I do want to say, for our budget, if we eat it, it's coming from a grocery store. And if we don't eat it, it is coming from a drugstore. So I would encourage you, if you're trying to decrease your budget across the board, to please consider learning how to shop a drugstore. Guys, and I was trying to think of the deals to pull things, but one huge one this week, you could go to Walgreens, CVS, or Rite Aid, pick your drugstore, And Arm & Hammer detergent is 99 cents or 98 cents in Walgreens for a bottle of detergent. No rewards needed there. That's just walk in and use a coupon, 99-cent detergent. So if you even just follow some of those deals, huge savings using drugstore deals. So groceries from a grocery store, almost everything else from a drugstore. And that is a huge impact. And what I mean by that, if you were to think about how much of your budget is personal care, so how much of your budget goes to toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant, all of that stuff. And then consider that most of these items, if you're shopping the drugstore, are free, how much that frees up in your budget for other items. So I get a lot of folks that say, if I could, maybe I only buy organic or I only buy gluten-free. How do I cut my budget? Well, if we could take the chunk of personal care out of your budget by shopping a drugstore, then thinking about how much that would open up for more organic or more gluten-free in your budget. I mean, even if we're not changing the amount you're spending, we're just opening up how much you can spend in other areas. That's huge. So that's all we're going to go there. I told you we're not going to spend a ton of time on the couponing side of things, but there's definitely a considerable chunk to it that is buying it on sale, buying enough of it for sure. But to get to a few other things, and Jessica, I love it. She says, my kids want to learn to coupon, especially now that a few of them are working. All it takes is for them to start spending their own money. And they start to realize that mama was kind of smart in that. I'm glad that they are starting to see the wisdom of that and wanting to save for sure. And Kenyatta is saying, well, I consider adding Meijer's to one of the lists of stores. So I'm not able to add any stores right now. It takes a lot of time, and I don't have the manpower for it. But I can add it to the list if we're ever able to add any more stores. But I can tell you right now it's not. That said, there is a feature on Southern Savers, you may not even know that we have it, where you can make your own list. And we just rolled this out earlier this year, but I will show you where to get to it. So if you are up at the top of the site, you will see, let me see, here we go. At the very top of Southern Savers, you'll see a green bar, and one of the options on the green bar says Public List Maker. So it's very top when you're logged in. And on the Public List Maker, you can come in and make a list for a store that I don't cover. You can add your own deals to it. And then after you add your own deals, so we're just going to go with this random pasta here that I added a while ago. This was me just kind of playing with it. But I can click on this and I can type in, it'll find the brand. It's pulled up the word pasta already, and I can sit here and add any coupons that I wanted to for that item. So I may not cover Meijer, but you could basically cover Meijer on your own, just typing in what you know is on sale and then quickly adding the coupons for that item. And then when you're done, you can click Create a Printable Shopping List, and all of this will come straight to a shopping list, just like all the other stores that are on Southern Savers for you. So I know that that's a very fast view of how to use it, but again, to go back to find this, you'll find it at the very top of the site in this green bar that's across the top, and it says Public List Maker, and that's what you want to try out and see if it works for you. Hopefully it will. If it doesn't, let me know. Okay, so to dive into a few other ways to save money on your groceries, obviously I'm going to go couponing first, but there are other ways. One that I get folks, this is really a question that I get from folks a lot, and this kind of ties into the drugstores that we were just mentioning. I'll get folks that say, hey, we're really trying to cut our budget. Would we save money to make our own cleaners or make our own detergent? And in a way, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this book. There, you can check it out from the library. It's like this thick. There is a book called the Tightwad Gazette. This lady wrote it in the early 80s, I think. And it's just tons of ways to cut corners and save money. And there's detergent recipes. You'll find those all over the web. When it really comes down to the deals, though, if you are couponing and you are following the deals, like the 99-cent Arm & Hammer, when it comes down to those deals, you cannot buy the ingredients to make your own laundry detergent as cheap as you can to buy the laundry detergent. And that's hard for some folks, especially the folks who love making their own detergent. But really and honestly, to go down to the price per load when we're just talking cleaners, I'm not talking food here. You will always save money to make your own food, guys. But when we're talking cleaners, you can't beat the deal. So we even see free detergent from time to time. But I mentioned Arm & Hammer. There's another deal. If you go to the Walmart list on Southern Savers, you can get Tide Pods and Tide detergent at Walmart through tomorrow for 94 cents. So it really doesn't even matter your brand, guys. You can't make it that cheap. When you start to think of needing to buy borax, needing to buy Feld's Naphtha, whatever the recipe is that you end up finding, usually, I'm not going to say all of them, but usually they call for a number of ingredients that are going to end up costing a lot. Now, if we're talking, I use vinegar and water, then maybe not. Vinegar, you're going to spread it out, and this is all what you're going to clean your windows with. Go for it. But generally, we even see those items super cheap too. Okay. Oh, and there we go. My husband put in a link to the Tightwad Gazette if any of you want to find it. It's really interesting, but I will tell you, I checked this out from the library probably about 14 and 15 years ago. Before I started Southern Savers, we were desperately trying to save money. And the one thing I remember from the Tightwad Gazette was get together with your neighbors and all of you pay the water bill at the same time in the same envelope with the same stamp. Like, that is definitely going to save some money, but I just have, never gone there. And you have to consider too, this was written in the 80s before bill pay and things like that. I just thought it was fun. Yeah, and SP Marsh, thank you, on the YouTube side is saying be very careful making your own laundry detergent, as many times they're not HE compatible. I agree with you on that one too. So that's, a whole nother story for folks. And there we go. So let's see. Oh, you guys are silly. Okay, so a few other things. I just wanted to hit that one because it is a question I get a lot in terms of making your own versus buying. If we're following the deals, just buying, making your own is not going to save any money. So a few other things that are going to help you save money outside of the couponing. A huge one, and again, we've done whole videos on almost all of these topics tonight, but a huge one as well is meal planning. So I took this right off of our fridge. This was our meal plan for the past week that we've been following. And though it was last week, so I technically need to freshen it up, but you get an idea. It's just the basics. That's all I'm trying to put down. For a while, I was doing videos with you guys on Sundays and sharing what all we mapped out. I'm not getting super fancy with these. It's just the basics, the meat and the veggies, and having a general idea. This goes on the fridge. Everybody knows the plan, and that makes everybody happy. You'll notice there's a couple nights missing there. That's because we went to see family, and they fed us. Yay, that makes the meal plan even easier. Though we did go visit them, not just for the free food. But you get the idea. The reason that I encourage you to go here, and I'll confess, I hated meal planning. It just did not work for us for a very long time. It kind of took chaos coming into our house and realizing this really did take some chaos away. But meal planning, even when you've got a pantry stocked full of food, that was my excuse as to why I didn't. Like, guys, I'm shopping the deals. I don't really need to meal plan. I still meal plan just from the pantry. So I don't have to sit there and look at the weekly ad and focus on what's on sale, on what we're going to eat this week. We focus on what's on sale to stay stocked, but we meal plan from the pantry, just based on what we want, what we haven't had recently. But having a plan keeps you from eating out. And it also keeps you from possibly purchasing items in the grocery store that you don't really need, because there are items that are going to be kind of tempting. And for me, that tempting range, when I'm looking at the list on Southern Savers and I'm getting together my own grocery list, those items like that are $1.50 to $2. And you're thinking, oh, that's not a ton. We could add it in. We'll probably eat it at some point. But if it's not something that we regularly eat, I don't have it on the meal plan for the next couple of weeks, then it's probably not something I need to purchase. And that's an extra $1.50. And no, that doesn't sound like a lot, but those add up. You grab a couple of this one and a couple of another one, and you've just spent $10 without really even realizing it. So the meal plan is going to not only keep you from eating out, but it does help to control what is going in your cart when you're in the grocery store. In terms of making meal planning a little less stressful, what I would recommend is sitting down and making a list of all your favorite meals that you already eat. Just make a list. I'm not telling you to map them out by day, just make a list. And when you do that, you're going to realize you probably have about 12 meals that you already rotate through. So with those 12 meals, then sit there and let's just plug in 1 or 2 new ones in the mix. And you've got 2 whole weeks planned, done. And we can then rotate back through some of those 12. We can add in a couple more in the next 2 weeks, but you'll start to see that meal planning isn't that stressful. We really don't have a ton of variety in our diets, even though we'd love to think that we do. None of us are, 5-star chefs cooking something different every single night. Definitely not with me and all of my kids, because even the enchiladas that we cooked tonight, it's still got one person who immediately looked at it and tried to say they didn't want to eat it, which around here, if you don't want to eat it, that's fine. You're going to go to bed hungry. And she did decide that idea did not sound pleasing to her. But hopefully that'll take some stress off of it. I have a link. I'm going to have my husband stick it in the comments for you guys too on 8 easy ways to start meal planning. It's an article and actually a news segment that I did earlier this year on the Charlotte Today show. That's all together in that post. So if meal planning is not your cup of tea, at least look at the list, because I think some of it will be less stressful than we try to make meal planning. And really, we don't have to get fancy here. This is just a strip of paper and me scratching out some ideas. Some of that was because we went camping earlier this week. When I have a workshop out of town, which is where I was last Monday, we tend to camp. It's much cheaper than hotels. And if you're going to go camping, you really do have to plan out your meals, because you can't just keep running to the grocery store for things. So that sometimes is the way to go on just, taking some chaos out and getting a plan set, but definitely is going to help to cut the budget as well. One other note on that is freezer prepping. That has been a big money saver for us. And what I mean by that is not necessarily freezer cooking, but having items in your freezer that are ready to go and already cut up. This is also a money saver. It's a massive time saver, but it's a money saver for me, because when it comes down to produce that's about to go bad, or we grabbed a bag of onions, but some of the onions are starting to sprout and we haven't eaten the whole bag. Taking a second and chopping the rest of the onions and putting them in a bag and just having them straight in the freezer. It's pretty amazing to always have chopped onions ready for any recipe that you want, but it's even more amazing when you sit back and think, hey, I didn't just waste a whole half bag of onions because I forgot to eat them or forgot to cook with them. Another one that we do, and this might seem a little crazy, and maybe I'm off writing the whole Tightwad Gazette, the 2000 or the teens version of the 1980s book. But that huge thing, if you ever, the deals that we find, for example, the word is gone from my brain. Chicken broth. When you get the big cartons of chicken broth, that's usually what's BOGO. It's usually what's on sale with coupons. But it doesn't help when your recipe calls for 1 cup of chicken broth, or even 2, and you have this huge 32-ounce container. We just used half of it. Chicken broth does not last in the fridge. It's not really a safe item to ever keep open in the fridge longer than maybe a day. But this is our go-to here. We take muffin tins. We fill the rest of the chicken broth out in muffin tins and stick it in the freezer. Each muffin tin is about a cup, and then pop them out once they're frozen and put them in a Ziploc bag. So now the next recipe that calls for chicken broth, I didn't just waste half a container of chicken broth. I have cup-sized bits of chicken broth. This is really left over from our making baby food days and keeping baby food in ice cube trays. You could do the same thing. You could put them in ice cube trays if you want, but I just tend to go the other way around. Also the same if you are cooking chicken and you have an extra bit of meat down in the pan, adding some water and making your own chicken broth, sticking it in the freezer. I know we might be getting way too Susie Q homemaker for some of you, but just the basics of if you are opening a container, you're not using the entire container, figuring out a way to save the other half. It can be some expensive stuff. So taking that section and just taking a second and freezing it, you're going to be proud of yourself once you do it. So Paige is asking too, along those lines, are most veggies freezable, and are there any that you really can't freeze? So in terms of vegetables, Paige, I would say yes. The tricky part is going to be how you want to use them when you're done. You take them out of the freezer. So pondering, I can't really think of a vegetable that couldn't be frozen. But for example, if you're going to want to use those tomatoes in a salad, they aren't going to come out of the freezer for that. So most vegetables that go in the freezer, as long as you're okay with them coming out and I'm going to cook with them, then you're good to go. But if you're going to want to pull them out and eat them fresh on a salad or some other form, you're not going to be happy with the state that they come out after being frozen. But across the board, what I would do if you're in that boat is Google how to freeze tomatoes, how to freeze green beans, because most vegetables do need to be blanched. It's usually about 30 seconds, and you just put them in a pot of boiling water for 30 seconds, and then you quickly pull them out and put them in a bowl of ice water to stop the cooking process, and then you can put them in your vacuum seal bags or your Ziploc bags, whichever way you go. But that's the basics. And yeah, I can't think of a single one that couldn't, but if someone can, feel free to chime in. We freeze every single thing that we can't eat in time, hopefully goes straight in. Seeing my husband chat about onions too. Onions we don't blanch. I just chop them and we put them straight in the freezer and then put them straight frozen into the pot. If I'm cooking meat or whatever, they'll thaw pretty quick. But it definitely saves for a while. Okay, and in terms of our budget, we try to spend, Fred, about $70 to $75 a week is my goal, and I've been spot on that for the last couple of months, even having to throw in meat. So it always helps to have crazy things throw your budget off. I thought this was a fun one for us to talk about decreasing your grocery budget, because even I have been trying to be super diligent over the last couple of months with us, and just having a transmission go out and then having to have unexpected surgery all within 2 weeks of each other. You want to talk about budgeting for rainy day moments? We've done it. We've had videos on it, guys, and I told you where we were, and thankfully we can handle it, but that was it. I mean, you can't budget for much more rainy day than that. And now we need to start to rebuild that amount up. That means you got to be hardcore on your spending and no extra spending. So our kids know that we have, like, that belt buckle's been tightened down, and I don't really care if you want some juice. It isn't in the budget. So let's talk about things to not buy along those lines. And then I'll pop in. Lynn, I just saw your question on the food saver, so I'll answer it in just a second. But some things to not buy in terms of trying to cut the budget. How do we live on $75 a week? Because there are 7 of us here. That is a tight budget. Now, I showed you our meal plan, and when I say that this is, it was Italian chicken, sounds fancy, doesn't it? That is chicken with Italian salad dressing on top of it, broiled in the oven, and then put cheese on top. Fancy, huh? So we don't eat high-end fancy meals. We eat meals that kids will eat. And then some veggies and broccoli and tomatoes. Those tomatoes, that's not even a meal. That's not together. Those are tomatoes fresh from the garden and sliced on a plate, because we live in the South, and that is a side dish around here. I don't know if it is in your house, but it definitely is here. So we've been trying all summer to pull straight from our garden in terms of our veggies. But other things along those lines is aiming to not have a lot of extra things that I'm grabbing from the grocery store. So we're eating a meat and we're eating a veggie and probably rice as our starch, or just double veggies if we've got a lot from the garden. So tonight somebody didn't put their plate in the trash. So we had squash literally cut in half and just broiled under the broiler. So everybody had a half a squash on their plate, and that was their veggie. So anytime that I can grab from the garden is a huge one. And then decreasing anything that is prepackaged, even, trying to think like rice mixes and sauces. If they aren't super cheap, they really aren't going to make the cut. The reason for that, think about a bag of rice. If I can get a big bag of rice, I can usually get it for around 25 cents a pound. So that pound of rice, that's 2 cups of rice, and would serve our whole family for really a meal and then some. 25 cents a serving. So then when it comes down to those Knorr rice mixes or any other kind of rice side, if I can't get it for 25 cents, then rice is cheaper. So it's really thinking about what we're eating and are we eating the cheapest possible way of that particular product, I guess, is how I'm explaining it. So we may see some great deals, but it may not actually be as cheap as you could get it if you were looking at just a basic product versus going for a fancier one. So for one example, Near East rice and Rice-A-Roni. It's BOGO at Publix coming up on Wednesday. There are no coupons there. It's going to make it $1 a box. That will serve our family barely, but that's still $1 a box. So that type of thing when you're pondering your sides. And Megan's saying she just started Dave Ramsey's plan and grocery budget is by far the hardest. I agree, because everybody likes these little extras, or they have particular things that they like to always have on hand, or particular snacks. So snacks is another one for us. With that, that's where I've really tried to cramp down as things got tight. So we used to always have juice on hand for the kiddos. I've been buying the Kool-Aid, like the big canisters of Country Time lemonade. When I say big, the ones that were 25 cents at Kroger a few weeks ago. We have those, and that's our juice. I'm not getting any more juice right now. You can drink water. So if things are super tight, then you can also be super tight. One of those, and this hurts some people, and I'm not trying to affect anybody's nutrition, but one of those is milk. And it can be that you possibly need to ration down milk and cheese. Make sure your kids are getting protein from other sources if that's the case. But milk is expensive, and I'm not making a separate trip to go to Aldi to buy 1 gallon of milk. There isn't anything else that I would grab there. I'm going to grab most of those items cheaper in other places. So if I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to pay $2, $2.50 for a gallon of milk, that's more than I'm going to pay in some situations for more than I'm going to pay for a gallon of gas. We can drink water. And my kids, they can't be the only kids that will do this. They'll pour a cup of milk and then drink a piece of it and leave the rest of it sitting on the counter. So milk is not if you want to drink it, you have to drink it all. But it's there to put on your cereal. It's there for us to cook with. It's not there to drink as a snack. And that's just us. So just saying, if you are trying to cut the budget, looking at some of those expenses where your kids may be killing you, that's one for us. Drinks, juice, snacks become this isn't a necessity. A few others in the grocery store, and I tried to pull up the Publix weekly ad to see if they had an example this week. But meat in the grocery store, which we don't tend to purchase a lot of, meat for us is going in and getting it in bulk from the U.S. Foods Chef store on the other side of town. If you've got a restaurant supply store, that's where I would encourage you to grab your meat. But when you look at the grocery store, there are sale items there, and you can totally get your meat from the grocery store. There's just one thing that I urge you to avoid. And I was trying to find an example. It's not in the Publix ad this week, but it is almost every other week. They love to sell meat by the piece, not by the pound. So instead of buying salmon by the pound, Publix, Bilo, they're not the only ones, Winn-Dixie, will put it in their ad as being salmon fillet, 5 ounce, for $4.99. Guys, let's do some math there. That's basically, we're going to round up and just say that's, it's like grabbing a third of a pound. So if I can go in and get 5 ounces for $5, basically, you're going to end up paying $15 a pound for this salmon. Like, stay far, far away. This is not a deal. They'll do the same thing with steaks. Whenever you see hamburger patties, it's never a deal. Always grab that hamburger and make your own patties. You may hate to touch raw meat. Just sacrifice because it is way overpriced to buy the patty in the grocery store. So never buy meat, any meat product, by the each for fresh meat. Definitely by the pound and on sale. You're going to get a much better price across the board. And Deanna, thank you. I'm not the only one whose kids leave milk half in the cup. It does drive me crazy. I just want to stick them all in the fridge, but I don't have that much room in my fridge. Okay, and Lynn, I didn't jump back to your question. So Kohl's and Food Saver, will they accept the coupons.com? I have not had good success with them taking the coupons.com. Bed Bath & Beyond, though, will. So what I might do is pair that Food Saver printable coupon with the 20% coupon at Bed Bath & Beyond. So if you sign up for Bed Bath & Beyond's emails, you can pair that together. I don't know if you have a Bed Bath & Beyond in your area, but hopefully you do. It never hurts to ask if Kohl's will take it, but the couple of times that I've tried, it hasn't worked well at the register. So that's just my experience. Is shopping with cash versus a credit card any different? So Judith, there's no difference in terms of your price that you're going to pay for your groceries. We only shop and put it on credit and then pay off the credit at the end of the month. We don't carry a balance there. But that's mostly just to get the perks and the rewards of using rewards credit cards. But you can handle that however it helps you to stay on budget. So, I would say that's really just a preference issue, but you're not going to save any more one way or the other. And Wendy is saying, I've been on keto since May, and the grocery budget with keto is challenging. However, down 25 pounds. That's awesome, Wendy. We jumped off when I had to have surgery, and we need to jump back on. It's hard once you jump off, though, to bring yourself to get back on. So in terms of grocery budget, if you are doing diets, produce is the big one if you can get some deals on produce. And so that's where I've mentioned it a lot, Wendy. I know you've probably heard this numerous times, but trying to find a co-op if you can so that you can buy that produce in bulk, or looking at a farmer's market. One website that I have shared in the past too that might help folks if you haven't ever checked this one out. If you head to so.svrs.me/market, and I will stick that in the comments here in a second too, that will take you to it looks like a big dot matrix printout, but it's a report of the current prices at the farmer's market in Columbia, South Carolina. I know you might not be near here. Here's the thing. There's only 19 of these federal markets in the country. So if you're anywhere in the South, Columbia is going to be a pretty fair representation for you of what's in season and what the current prices are. So that when you head to your farmer's market, you know the right price to get for those items. It's just that simple. That's all we're trying to do. This is like your price book, basically, in terms of asking when you're at the farmer's market. So pull this report up. It changes every single day so that if I head to a local farmer's market and they tell me, oh, well, you can get this basket of peaches for, $16, and you could be like, that's a great price. That's what this report says. But if they say for $30, then they've lost their brains. They're asking you to pay twice the normal amount. So use that report. It's really a long USDA website, but use that link because there's no way I can direct you to the USDA website. Just use that. It's much easier. So so.svrs.me/market, and it will always take you to that report. So produce on a budget, and Kathleen, this is your question too. How do you do keto on a budget? So produce, being part of a produce co-op and buying meat in bulk is a huge one for us when we did keto, and we do need to go back on it. So meaning all of our meat is coming from that chef store. It's coming from that bulk purchase, and then aiming to have a meat and 2 veggies every night for dinner. The other thing that we would do to help save money, and this is across the board too, not just for dieters, but cooking extra so that you had some for lunch the next day. If I had extra grilled chicken always on hand from the last time that we grilled or even broiled, our Italian chicken is still delicious. Sliced up and turn that into fajitas the next day, just not putting them in a tortilla, just eating chicken strips and peppers and onions all sauteed together. It's still keto. You got to limit the peppers a little bit, but it's still keto. So taking your leftovers and repurposing them into another meal, but definitely if you are cooking steak or chicken to cook some extra so that you do have that to turn into another meal, because lunches are where things can get really expensive if you don't have something on hand. And lunches for me were the one where I would be really tempted to just throw it all to the wind because there wasn't something quick and easy that I could handle right now. The other thing that helped us for keto, and this may not be so easy for other folks, is that we do have 16 chickens out in the side yard. So we had all the eggs that we could possibly imagine for having breakfast, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if we wanted to. But I would say finding a good source of cheap eggs and meat in bulk is going to be the way to make keto happen on a budget. Okay. And Brandy's saying produce stands on the side of the road here in the South are always awesome. They are. And even with those produce stands, Brandy, I would still encourage you to bookmark that URL that we stuck in the comments, because those folks typically are one of two people. They're either the farmer selling to you instead of bringing it to the big farmer's market, or they are a reseller who drove the 2 hours to the nearest big market and are now reselling to you. And you at least know what they paid. So always look at those prices to get an idea. And Paige is saying Aldi's egg price is amazing. So yeah, I guess if you're going keto, you could go to Aldi for eggs and milk for the kids. You can't drink the milk yourself. But that's how Aldi gets folks in the door. That's their loss leader, is to get you in the door with their eggs and their milk. Okay. One other thing in cutting snacks that I did want to mention, I made myself a bunch of notes so I wouldn't forget tonight. If you are going to limit snacks for everybody across the board, this is more a like nutritional side of things. If your kids are getting just kind of hangry and they're needing more, high protein snacks are the best choice that you can make. I know they cost a little bit more when you're looking at it out, compared to Betty Crocker fruit snacks. But Betty Crocker fruit snacks aren't going to fill anybody up, and they are just going to want another snack right behind that. Going with a high protein snack, though, is going to actually fill them up and make them less likely to want the next snack. So there is some, reasonable logic behind being wise with the snack choices that you're grabbing and potentially paying more for a few things versus others. You could also go homemade here. A friend of mine recently shared her own recipe for homemade breakfast bars, because I was telling her, we're on a super tight budget, but I'm still buying breakfast bars every morning for my girls who were leaving at 6 a.m. to go to cross country. I am not in a let's sit down and cook breakfast mode at 6 o'clock in the morning. You can make your own. So grabbing those items and making your own breakfast bars, if you find that that's cheaper than grabbing the deals, go for it. Okay, and Heather says, I still feel like I get a better deal at Aldi if I'm not using a coupon. So Heather, if you are not following the sales and using coupons, then yes, the regular price in Aldi is it's really what I would recommend as being your price book. So if I'm going to coupon and I'm going to follow the deals, then my goal is to beat Aldi's prices, which usually I can. But if I'm not going to coupon and I'm not going to follow the deals, then heading to Aldi and grabbing their items works too. Just know, and this gets Aldi loyalists get hot and bothered here, but just know that I could do better if I wasn't there. And just some examples on that one. Cereal, it's rare that I would ever pay more than 75 cents for a box of cereal. Half the time we end up with it more like 50 cents a box. You're not going to find that in Aldi. Doesn't exist. Nor rice sides. I was talking to Tawana last week, getting Nor rice sides in Publix for 10 cents a piece. And I know I just used it as an example, but if you can beat the prices that you've set in your mind, then it's a great price. Those just don't happen. So if I'm not going to follow the sales and I'm not going to coupon, then Aldi does have great prices. But if you are, you're probably going to beat the prices on a regular basis. And that should be your goal. If you can't beat the price, then don't buy it in the grocery store. Let's go buy it in Aldi or Lidl. Let's give Lidl a shout out because they're basically Aldi's only competitor, but same exact concept if you have a Lidl come into your area. Let's see. Oh, and Heather said, I followed sales and was doing stores in addition to Aldi, but I was buying things I didn't need. And I will agree there, Heather. So it comes down to really focusing on the budget. And what I would recommend too, and I should have started here. It's actually at the top of the list, guys, just to point that out. It wasn't just me. Mint. You can't decrease your grocery budget if you don't have a grocery budget. So I should have started where my original plan was, just to, put that little nugget in there. If you do not currently have a point where you say the grocery budget is done, then you don't really have a grocery budget. If you're just going in and you're trying to save money, but if you go way over, it's okay, you don't really have a grocery budget. If you need to sit down and say, this is our goal, and we're not going to go over it. And it doesn't matter that such and such is 75 cents. If you've never purchased that in your life, that's 75 cents. That doesn't really need to come out of the grocery budget. So Mint, if you haven't set a budget, we've done whole videos on that one too, guys. But Mint is a great tool for free in terms of just seeing where your money is going. And even if you don't use it for a ton, but just plugging in your accounts for a couple of months and seeing just how much you are spending on groceries might be a little eye-opening if you have not sat down and done that recently. But then setting a budget. And I don't intend for you to use mine. You know, I'm not asking for you to live on $75 a week for all of your food, but I would try to aim, if you're not doing anything right now, I would try to aim for cutting it in half. And that's how we started. I did not want to cut our grocery budget. My husband was the one that came and said, I really think that you need to try to bring groceries down. Life was just super tight, and we had twins who were right at being one. And I really thought I was just going to prove him wrong. I thought that going to Walmart was going to do it, but I had my eyes opened. Once we started to figure out how all this worked, we really did cut our budget in half from what we were spending to just 50% left, and it was pretty awesome. But you've got to have an idea of what you're spending to be able to do that in the first place. So I agree with you, Heather. It really does come down to, there may be a really great deal on that, but if the budget is met, the budget is met, and it's going to stay right where it is, and we'll be okay without it. Just kind of having that mindset to leave the store, leave the item on the shelf for sure. And Tawana, you just joined us. I just used you as an example in chatting about a deal that we were talking about last week. Okay, so one other that I wanted to mention in terms of avoiding items, and I think this one most folks realize, prepackaged as just a general rule is never a deal. So, those little individual chips that are BOGO right now and cookies for school lunches, please just grab the huge bag and divide them all up in Ziploc bags yourself. It is massively cheaper than individual bags. But the other thing along that line is food that has already been pre-cooked for you. So generally, the deli, not the best place, but you're going to find some other things in the deli, not behind the deli counter, but in front of the deli counter, that is a really horrible price, like 2 boiled eggs, hard-boiled eggs for $4. I mean, you could buy like 2 whole dozen for that price. So just staying away from some of those items. It's totally convenience food, and it is not a deal ever. So generally anything that's been prepackaged is not a deal, even down to, and I'll confess, I love them. They make life so much easier, but the salad bowls that are already in a bowl, I will only grab those when they are buy one, get one, which we haven't seen in a while, because a bag of salad on sale is $2, and a bowl of salad with a few little things to sprinkle on top, you might find for $3.50, and that's on sale. So staying away from any of those items where they have then taken a larger package, put it in a smaller package so that they can charge you more for it. It is not a deal. So trying to stay away from those for sure. Let's see. Can you save money if you only get 1 copy of the Sunday paper, or do you need to get multiple copies? So you could actually get none if you wanted. What I would recommend is make your shopping list on Southern Savers. See how many of the deals are calling for coupons from the Sunday paper. If a lot of the items are calling from coupons from the Sunday paper, then maybe you do want to consider getting more than one. The reason is that when an item comes on sale, it's not coming back on sale for 6 weeks. So I want to get enough for 6 weeks. It's usually more than one, which usually means I want more than one paper. But the reason I tell you to make a shopping list first is that a lot of these items do have coupons in other places. So even, the Arm & Hammer, we saw Arm & Hammer coupons come out in Sunday's paper, but we also saw Arm & Hammer coupons come out as printables. So I wouldn't have to, if that was the only coupon you wanted, you would have been just fine just printing it versus getting the Sunday paper. So that's why I start by making a shopping list, see how many things are calling for it. Another tip is every Wednesday, and I'll show you where to find this on the site, but every Wednesday, if you are on Southern Savers, right here on the site, you'll see this Sunday ad. And if you click on Sunday ads, this is going to bring up the coupon insert preview. We post this every Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock. It never changes. Of what is coming in next Sunday's paper. So obviously it's Monday night, so this is last week's. But if you can't decide how many papers to get, pull up this preview because it's going to show you every coupon. Now, obviously that may not be every coupon in your particular city, but it's still going to give me a good idea. Is this a paper that I want to get? Or is this a paper that there's not really much here that I want? Definitely, if you pull up the preview and it says there's only one insert coming, that maybe this is the week that I don't want to bother getting the paper. Or you pull it up and you see that it's a Procter & Gamble insert. And that would be my one big tip there. Because Procter & Gamble coupons, very rare to see them as printables. The insert form for some of them is the only form that you're going to find. And I want to be able to have those insert coupons to go with deals in the drugstore. The good thing for you, Amy, though, is that those P&G inserts only come out once a month. So, worst case scenario, or best case, I guess, for you if you're trying to spend less money, best case scenario that you just grab that one newspaper a month and maybe two of those, and then we skip the other newspapers if there's not much in there that you wanted. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Back to freezing food. Can milk be frozen and drank after being thawed? Yes, Tiffany. So we have done this in the past. Now, I'm telling you that I'm limited milk. I have limited milk. I do not buy near what I used to when folks were a lot younger, and even then kind of cutting back almost to just 1 gallon where we used to be 2 every single week. But it can. So milk already has little indentations in the side of it. I know folks that would always open the cap and pour some off. You don't really have to do that. We've never had one bust on us. Just stick it straight in the freezer. Those little indentations will pop out when it freezes, but it'll be just fine. One thing to do with milk when you freeze it, write the date that you put the milk in on the milk because you're basically stopping time when you put it in. So for example, let's say that I bought milk that was going to expire 7 days from today. I can either write a 7 on the top or I can write today's date on the top. Doesn't matter. You'll need to do some math either way. But I can write a 7. When I pull that milk out, it is now going to expire 7 days from when I pull it out. So you need to write the new date on it when you pull it out so that you know when that 7-day mark is. Whole milk will settle just a little bit, but you can shake it up. My kids, if they turn it into chocolate milk, never can tell a difference with whole milk. With 2%, it's even less likely that they would be able to tell a difference at all. Whole milk, you can tell a tiny bit that it's been frozen though, so that's why we would just turn that into chocolate milk and no one would care, or we would cook with it. You can Google that one too, but that's just our tips on freezing milk. Oh, and Brandy's saying just a tip for dog owners, if your bananas are going bad, use them to make dog treats. There we go. That's a great idea. We tend to freeze ours or turn it into banana bread, but I have no doubt that one of our dogs would eat them. One of our dogs, if he knows that it has veggies or produce in it, he's out. And Diana, good question. Have I heard of Misfit Market? They claim to be 50% off on organic veggies and fruit because they're ugly. So I have not used them, Diana, and I have heard of them. I've had other people ask me about them, but I just got a press release in my email this week that they are coming to South Carolina. So I've not had the ability to try them, and hopefully I can kind of test them out and see. I will tell you, for our produce, we do not focus on organic. We focus on food and food getting on the table. So for me, when I see it's 50% off on organic veggies, I'd still question whether or not it would hit the mark that I would be trying to hit for produce. Most of our produce, like 90% of it, comes from our produce co-op already, and it's hard to touch those prices. It's like straight farmers market prices because we're buying in bulk and we're just splitting it up amongst a bunch of people. But if you can hit prices that are better than what you're used to paying in the grocery store, then I would say 100% go for it. You know, who cares if your produce looks ugly? If it tastes great and you're getting the price you want, then it's definitely worth trying. I just haven't had the chance to yet. And folks are saying about using a coupon clipping service for sure. So if you haven't already, that is an option. There are a few of them out there. I do not get the Sunday paper. I get the Sunday paper in the mail. And every time I mention that, so the one I use, there's a lot out there though, is SundayCouponinserts.com. But you can just Google whole coupon inserts. You can Google coupon clipping services. You're going to find a number of them that are out there. Price-wise, they're all about the same. And it's not necessarily cheaper than getting the Sunday paper, though, I will say that much. But it does potentially get you coupons from a bigger city, which for a lot of folks is a good way to save some more. Because if you live in a tiny area, odds are your inserts are really missing out on a number of great offers that were in bigger cities. So switching to something that's online is going to help you to get those better offers and more coupons. Okay. Yes, so, and Jessica, thanks. Jessica's chiming in on freezing cheese as well. That's another one that you want to bake with it, but you don't want to eat it just fresh like you normally would. And Kathy's talking about, just budgeting even for seniors is tricky not to buy too much and then lose your appetite. So in terms of, let's talk about if there's just one or two of you, because I do get that as a kind of an excuse in a sense. I'm glad to see that you aren't using it as an excuse, Kathy, but I will hear that. Believe me, I've heard every excuse there is as to why people don't want a coupon. And one of them is, you know what, it's just me, or it's just me and my husband, and it's not worth the time. We don't eat that much. You know what? Every item goes on sale, and that sale is about 6 weeks long. So if your family eats one of an item in a 6-week period of time, then you stocked up. So the stocking up side of things, the buying it on sale side of things is different for every single household. As long as you're getting what your household needs, then you're good. You don't want to know how much cereal I buy, and I would never try to compare that to the amount of cereal that you buy, or I would really feel like I had done something wrong. So that just kind of realizing that we're all in a different boat. We're all buying different items and we're buying a different amount of them. But as long as you are setting yourself up to not have to go back to the store and pay full price, then you're playing the game right, because that's really the goal. I don't want to grab some today, run out of it in 2 weeks, and have to pay full price. That's no fun. I want to get free pasta today and have enough free pasta to last me until it's back on sale. That's the goal. And the minute you do that, you get that idea too. And how you're just not going to really want to go back. So Heather, another great question. And Brandy's asking it too. So any tips for kids' lunches besides sandwiches and managing lunches? So what we definitely do a lot of leftovers around here, and I do have to, confess to you guys, I have 5 kids, but I homeschool them all. So packing lunches is actually only something I do 1 day a week around here when we go to co-op day. With lunches and sandwiches, if they are not sandwich kiddos, I would encourage you to make your own Lunchables. So just taking a hunk of cheese and cutting it into pieces, keeping lunch meat on hand. So I have one kiddo who doesn't want it as a sandwich, but she's quite content to eat her cheese and her lunch meat together with some crackers. And that's basically what she's done, is made a Lunchable. The other thing that I would do is, again, no prepackaged. So taking those items and getting those little sandwich baggies, and even the snack baggies, keeping them in those, have them pre-done up so you don't even have to spend time with it. They're just, grab and go in a sense, but you don't have to pay the money for grab and go. The other thing for lunches is to ponder getting some containers if your kids are old enough to remember to bring the containers home, and consider things like soup, consider even salad for your older kids in those containers so that it's all done up. Depending on how you pack your lunches, potentially some of those items could be done up to a week out. It'll take me a second. I'm going to try to find a post. We did it earlier this year on meal planning for lunches. And I know we're right back in that. So it's something I should have kind of thought through and pulled for us before we dove in tonight. I pulled the meal planning one, just not the lunches. But let's see if I can find it quickly for you guys. If I can't, I'll stick it in the comments after we're done. But we did kind of a whole series. There we go. A week of school lunch ideas. That's exactly. And this one. So here we go. So we've got 2 for you that I will stick in the comments, and hopefully that will help. And these are just posts that we wrote earlier this year, but they should give you some ideas for sure. And I actually had a friend who makes lunches every single day help me out in writing them, so that you weren't just getting I pack an occasional school lunch. I will say having everybody home actually is potentially harder on your budget than having everybody go to school. You'll see all the memes pop up about how your budget gets hurt and your kids are constantly eating all summer. And it's true, but when you're homeschooling, they're constantly eating all the time because they don't ever go anywhere. So we fight that one. And snacks are a big one that we fight, to the point that I would love to put a lock on the pantry door in the afternoon. But anything that you kind of see where your kids are really affecting the budget, figuring out how to stop it. So better snacks, higher protein snacks, that kind of thing. One thing, if you're also in this boat, that a friend of ours that also has a big family shared, she took gallon-size bags, put snacks in those bags for the whole week for her kids, and that was their bag of snacks, and they could eat it when they chose to eat it, but when that bag was empty, there were no more snacks. I love the idea. Around here, our snacks tend to be a lot of fresh fruit, so they'll do like apples and peanut butter, so you're getting the protein, and obviously sticking all of that in a bag for the whole week might get a little scary by the end of the week, but if you were doing any sort of crackers and those types of items, that would be a great way to decrease the amount of snacks that we're just getting devoured, because that's how it works. So is there anything similar to Zaycon? So you're trying to save on meat, and that one, we don't have anything that is going to be deliver. There is one company that is starting up. It's called the Savvy Butcher, I think is the name of it. It's actually being started by some folks that used to run a couponing site out in Utah. Yes. So this, I think I'm naming it right. I don't want to send you off to some company in Canada, though. It appears it might be the Savory Butcher. I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out. So they're not in all areas yet. They're coming this way, but they started out west, really in the northwest, Idaho and Utah area. And so it's going to take them a little while to get to our corner of the world. But they brought on some of the former Zaycon employees that lost their jobs, and they're trying to kind of rebuild with a much better mindset. Other than that, there's not anything that is home delivery that's a decent price. There's the butcher's box, not a decent price. Don't go there. Okay, Savory Butcher, my husband went digging, and I should know that. I'm friends with her on Facebook, and I see her share things, but it's just not in our area. So sorry, guys. Savory Butcher, not the Savvy Butcher. The Savvy Butcher really is somewhere in Canada when I just Googled it, so Savory. But what I would encourage you, if you are trying to go meat, is that you go bulk. Look for a restaurant supply store in your area. We have the U.S. Foods Chef Store that lets anybody shop there. There's Gordon Food Service. I know they're up in Kentucky and Tennessee and some Georgia cities. There's even some Tyson chicken plants that will let you direct buy from them. I had some folks sharing that in a workshop last week. So seeing if you've got things in your area like that. If you don't, finding a local butcher in your area and seeing if they work direct with any farms, so that you could go in with a few friends, or maybe the butcher already has folks that are interested, and you buy a side of beef, like half of a side of beef or a fourth. It's a ton of meat, but you get a really good price when you do that. Anytime that you can grab things in bulk, it's going to save you some money when it comes to meat and produce for sure. Okay, how about for the husbands? I spend $10 to $15 a week for frozen meals, and I need to eliminate that. So Heather, when it comes to lunches, I would highly recommend that you go the plastic containers and making leftovers. He does not have to eat tonight's leftovers tomorrow for lunch. You could always make leftovers, still put it in a lunch container, and just plan for him to take that 2 days from now. My husband's on the chat, but he would be the first to tell you that leftovers, when we got married, that was he did not really want to eat leftovers. It was not a favorite for him. Now it's come down to, because all the kids are going to eat those leftovers for lunch, that it's like, who can get to the fridge the fastest to get the best leftovers? And none of them stay in there very long. I would. So you'll see those deals on Amazon for like 16 count of the plastic. They're reusable, but they're plastic meal. They have a special term that they give them, but they're just containers, like takeaway containers. Have a set of those. But as I cook meals, intentionally making extra every time I'm cooking, because I promise your home cooked dinner is cheaper every single time per serving than any frozen dinner would be, intentionally. So we put it aside, label the top of it if that helps, and then tuck it in the fridge. And he doesn't have to take tonight's meal tomorrow. So you get in a rotation where you're 2 days ahead of him and he's taking something from 3 days ago. He probably won't care that it's leftovers. And if anything, it's going to taste and be way more filling than that frozen dinner would. That by far is the best way to go. We did have someone ask, this was on a Q&A a long time ago, but could be a good idea to ask about saving on lunch meat, because lunch meat was killing their budget with their husband taking big sandwiches to lunch. And one of the things that you could look for a deal on, and we're right in the time frame to do this, I'd check Dick's Sporting Goods, I'd check Academy Sports, kind of in the hunting section either, but you'll find meat slicers. We actually own one. So meat slicers to where I can grab a ham and just slice it up however thin I want to. We have leftover Sunday roast, and we can slice that leftover Sunday roast and turn it into roast beef. Though some days it's rare that we have leftovers, but you get the idea. Being able to take something you've already cooked and completely repurpose it into lunch meat. I know that's grabbing a whole nother kitchen appliance, but if you can find on closeout or clearance, kind of like even adding it to your Christmas list, if you've hit that point in life where no one knows what to get you, then let's add a meat slicer to the list. Your mother-in-law will probably think you've lost your mind, but you can tell her that it's totally for her son, and maybe she won't care. But that would be one too. Just finding ways to get kind of unique with repurposing your food and your leftovers. And then someone saying bento box. Bento box is a great one. Has huge reviews. We just saw them on Zulily for 50% off, but we'll probably see them again on Amazon. They run a lot of sales this time of year. So if you are looking for some type of reusable container, that you only want one. Bento boxes are kind of expensive, even 50% off. They're like 15 or 16 bucks. But the 16 pack of reusable meal containers that we see on Amazon, they'll usually run about 12. They're plastic. They're not meant to be as long-term as a bento box, but they might be a better fit depending on if your husband brings in his dishes from the car or leaves them in the car. No, we're just going to leave it like that. And are there ever deals on Amazon Prime? No. It would be wonderful if there were, Paige. We haven't seen Amazon Prime on sale in probably 2 years now. It just doesn't happen. So you're just going to have to pay for it. And that's the hard one. I will say it is cheaper when you look at it across the board compared to Netflix, for example. Netflix might have more that you want to watch, and we're not talking TV, but when you look at the cost per month and you throw in free shipping and you throw in all the other features of Amazon Prime, it is cheaper. Just going to say it. Yeah, I'm glad my husband is confessing in the comments. I didn't go there. I stopped. And you can get small containers for condiments. You can, or Melanie, I'm just gonna mention this one. Whenever you're in a restaurant and you're eating there and they give you all those extra condiments and you don't eat all the extra ketchup and mustard and whatever else, I hold on to those little packets. So in our camper, we have an old camper. I shared our little meal plan earlier, and the bottom two say camp next to them because we were off camping. For hot dogs and chips night, I didn't bring out a bottle of ketchup. I brought out ketchup packets. They live in a Ziploc bag, and they're just saved. So if you've got those type of items, now that doesn't help you if you're sending a salad off and you need ranch dressing. You probably don't have a packet of ranch dressing, but if we needed something tiny, those are go-to. They've already put them on your plate. They're not going to go and put them on someone else's plate. I'm not saying like take all the ketchup in the restaurant. We aren't going there, but once they've served it to you, it's your ketchup. And you should just take it home and save it for another meal, and definitely for lunches. And another random one here, since, I can share. You may not know this, but ketchup packets, stick them in the freezer. They are amazing little like boo-boo bunnies, if you want to call them that. That's just the pediatric nurse in me coming out. But if your kids get a bump or scrape, just grab a ketchup packet. It's frozen in the freezer. It doesn't melt like an ice cube does. It's amazing, and it can go back in the freezer. So now you have a whole nother purpose for ketchup. Oh, and Tina saying, head to the Asian market, and you could also get disposable condiment containers pretty cheap. That's a great tip. Thank you. So Jennifer's also sharing with you, Paige, there are student discounts for Prime. So yes, there's a 6-month student discount. Doesn't last past that though, which is really a bummer. And they do have a version of Prime that is a lower price for folks that are on SNAP and food assistance programs. Okay. We are out of time. We've hit everything. We hit a lot of things tonight in terms of just various ways to save. Next week, we are going to go all through the drugstores. We haven't done it in a while. I try to aim for us to repeat like things twice a year. It's a pretty wide spread. And we're right at that time frame. So we are going to do CVS and Walgreens and just talk about the gist of drugstore deals as a whole. I also already went, if you were missing them, I didn't get Walgreens done last week, but I did go and film Walgreens and CVS, the deals for this week. So hopefully I will have those videos up for everybody to see on the big deals to grab this week by tomorrow night. I don't know. It's all my husband and how fast he can piece them together. But you can watch for those too if you're wanting this week's deals at the drugstore. So join us next week, same time, Monday night, always at 8:30 Eastern, and we'll jump straight into that. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope that you learned some new things. I definitely got some fun tips from you guys too. So it was fun to be back, and I look forward to next week. Thanks again, guys.